Yo, what is up, everybody? It is time for Shooting the Shit Uncensored. And as always, it is me, that bald, that beautiful, that beard, the dad bod god himself, Piers Austin. And we are brought to you, as always, by the MWA Podcast Network, the number one place to get all your wrestling media, all your wrestling content. We have 7 shows that go live nearly every day of the week. You've got this, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You've got Killing the Business with former ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina, and the 2 other kings, King Mega and the Burger King, Glenn Sexton. You've also got Get Funked, hosted by the controversial, the former WCW and TNA original, Alan Kwee Funk. You've also got Knights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider. So make sure you check those shows out, guys. But we got to take a quick pause to thank some of those sponsors and help us keep the lights on up in this bitch, because you know those fluoro lights aren't cheap to run, ladies and gentlemen. First up is healthvape.com. Now, healthvape.com is your healthy vaping alternative, guys. There is no addictive chemicals, no nicotine. It is all natural and vitamin infused, guys. So if you're a cigarette smoker, you're a regular vape person user, hit up healthvape.com, use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. But guys, while you're checking things out on the internet, you need to go and check out sleeps.com. That's SLEEFS, sleeps.com, because if you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to check out Sleeps. They've got armbands, they've got knee bands, they've got compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, mouth guards, boots, and even dirty boxes, guys. And I got to say, they've sent me a heap of these dirty boxes. Nearly every month, they send me a whole package of these dirty boxes, guys. And I have to say, they are the most comfortable boxes in my collection. I actually threw everything else out in the bin. These are the most comfortable. I'm an active guy. I never stop moving. These boxes keep me dry all day. They stay fresh. They stay wonderful. And they've got some funky designs on the front of them. So if you want to get a giggle out of your special someone, rock out with those dirty boxes from sleeps.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on purchase. Oh, yeah, baby. But guys, look, without further ado, my guest is making his return. The first time he was on was a pre-recorded episode. So this one is live. So you guys are going to get it to see it live and in living color. No, it's not CM Punk, but it is the cult classic, Bobby Bishop. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, how you going, dude?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. You know, week 15 in lockdown and, you know, getting through it, man. We can finally see the end of the tunnel with it. So, and I get to chill out and have a mad conversation with you on a Tuesday night. So I'm pretty good, man.
It's the best part. Just give me 1 second because my phone kept going off. Hi, Spady. How you going?
We got him in the chat. He's already in there. So,
but, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's in the chat already. We got a few people that are popping in, but man, look, you know, you've got a lot happening this weekend, man. You know, we're just talking about it. PWA, you know, having a Queensland show up in Saturday.
No pressure.
You and Lucille are going to be working. Man, what can you tell us about the show? What can we expect from the show?
It's gonna be like bands playing. It's gonna be like a lot of wrestling. It's just gonna be a very seriously fun show. Like, the venue is amazing. Like, you suck, Bobby Bow. I didn't even see it. Is it Bobby Boucher? He said.
Yeah, he said Bobby Boucher.
I'm kidding. Sorry, I'm gonna get distracted there. Hey, Spade, you know we're live, right? Anyway, so yeah, it's gonna have bands playing. It's gonna have a great sort of atmosphere. Like, I love like festival wrestling when it's like rock, like, you know, when you go to like a gig wrestling, especially if the bands are good. Like, if you get, we had an 18+ show around here recently, and like I liked the venue. I liked the vibe the show gave, but the bands there were some bands in the first show, the first one of it was just terrible, and then by the time we got to the end, when we get to the end, when the last band came on, everyone was so deflated by these other bands that started before it that they just didn't want to stick around and watch. And it was a shame too, because that last band was really good, but like it was such different styles of music. I'm not ditching screamo, but traditionally that's not a commercial music that you can just put out there on a show if people from different tastes can just adapt to. Like a normal hard rock band, absolutely anyone can listen to hard rock and just feel the vibe. But if you listen to screamo and stuff like that, like it's just like, oh, it's not really my thing. I don't really want to stick around, eh?
But you know what? Like rock and roll and professional wrestling kind of go hand in hand, really, don't they? Because it's like
absolutely.
It's almost like, I don't want to say it's the same crowds, but it's the same mentality of crowds that you see at, like, you know what I mean? Like, any times I've been in a mosh pit, like that's where you find some of the nicest human beings in the world. And it's the same with professional wrestling as well, whether it's fans or even the athletes themselves.
When not in go back in that perspective, like of bands and stuff like that. Also, good morning, Dead Prez. Going on that perspective of like, what was I saying, like wrestling and rock and roll. I went to Soundwave and I was there looking for. I went there for much Linkin Park. I'm don't get me wrong; these bands were great. All the bands I wanted to see, like Linkin Park, Offspring. Offspring were amazing. I waited my whole life for that moment because I was like big on Offspring when I was growing up. I watched Blink-182. Yeah, and like I had a choice. I think it was like between Metallica and Offspring, and I picked Offspring because I was like, I'm sorry, I love Metallica. I know they're legendary, but there's a teenager inside me still that just loves that band and will never stop loving that band. And I've never seen them live. And when I saw them live, my expectations were just punched right through. Like they killed it, and they didn't even move on stage. I didn't need to. But I saw Blink-182 before.
They're
I
awesome,
hate metal. Blink-182 were good. I saw these bands. But when I tell people about it, like, I didn't mind the mosh pits. I didn't mean commingling in it. I had more fun in the band CKY. And I've only know like 3 of their songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a huge fan of it. I just know 3 of the songs. I knew they were a good band. I went and saw it. It was earlier in the day. It was in this small little spot of the Soundwave. So it wasn't in the big stage. It was raining. There was mud everywhere. And we're all just shoving each other and throwing mud at each other. And then we're all like screaming the CKY, CKY. And it is, when I think back to it, it's like, that was pro wrestling before I got really into going to live gigs with pro wrestling. I describe that as like, that was the feeling I get when I go to pro wrestling, just at a rock concert.
100%, dude. But you know what you mentioned, like the Offspring, man. I actually went to an Offspring concert when I was like 15 or 16. And it was like, oh dude, like I was so pumped up. Like I went there and then like me and my friends would go there and they're like, we give our tickets. They go, yeah, you're in the seated section. And we're like, what? Like, what do you mean seats? And like, yeah, the whole 2-hour concert, we had to sit down. And it was like, we were like sitting there going, this is awesome, but this sucks like ass, man. Like,
you're just sitting there, it's like, you get up one little bit, and the lady's like, hey, don't too rowdy.
Yeah, exactly,
down.
man. Exactly. But so, what's the plan for this Saturday? So, is it like a music festival / a wrestling show? Like, what's the gist of it?
So, like originally I thought it was going to be focused on music and stuff like that. You know, like you have your music and then wrestling's in between. But as the weeks have gone on, and PWA, the big man himself, the big boss himself, and everything, we've sort of learned this venue is very much prioritizing the wrestling aspect of it as much more. It's now become more of a wrestling show with rock than it was with wrestling. Like so this weekend is going to be a little bit of stories. It's going to unfold in like this, like sort of like in a big sort of like amount of hours between like music and wrestling. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be some comedy. It's going to be some like, I'm in a no DQ match. Yay. Like, you know, and like, it's been a weird, especially this year. I've never did anything hardcore in my life. This year I've gone through tables, fallen on chairs. Like, it's been a weird year.
The cult classic deathmatch, man. We could possibly see it.
I mean, it's going to have that VH quality to it, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. But as far as the wrestling show of it, like, is it going to be a complete wrestling show, or is it just going to be like 1 or 2 matches plus music?
It's going to be like, 1 or 2, maybe 3 matches. Sorry, no, 2 or 3 matches, music. 2 or 3 matches, music. 2 or 3 matches, big end of and then with music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So it's pretty well structured how it's going to be. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Not like a consistent show from start to finish, but more of like breaking it up in between with a few intervals.
Yeah, I mean, like the big boss man, like I'm not sure in terms of kayfabe, but we can mention him in the interview. Like that's why I avoid it. But he unfortunately can't be at the show. But he has. I'm his. If I was to describe anything, me and Lucille are his like go-to people. His hands essentially. We're doing everything that he wants to do, and then he's also flowing history in as the guy who punishes people for not doing what he wants.
That's a good choice.
Oh yeah, like honestly, he just like he makes jokes about it all the time. It's like, if you step out of line, history's going to be there to kneecap you. Not to me, to everyone.
But you know what? Like, I saw yesterday the vignette or the thing that you and Lucille did, and I thought it was really well done. Like going into the elevator and stuff like that. As far as like producing something like that, did you guys have a very big involvement with putting that together?
No, it's like so how that works is with we have a guy called Jordan, ironically named Jordan, because I know PWA got a guy called Jordan, so this is a different one, and he just films and edits for us and stuff like that. So the good thing with PWA, and it was our last promo too, like we never got asked to make a promo. Although they were hints like, can we push this product? Can you like push it online and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We just went out of our way and did it. And if any wrestlers are out there listening to this, if you really want to impress the big dudes, do something like that. Don't just wait for them to tell you. Just do it. Like we literally handed that promo to the boss man, and he said, "Thank you so much." Like this is, and then we did it with the last shot. Bring your own gear. Like we knew we get told what we're doing. So it's like you're just going out there having a normal match, not much of a big story. It literally opens like, all right, cool. We'll just do a story that doesn't really affect anything. Like in our promo, like we just stopped some criminals mugging this dude who happens to have tickets to PWA and get us booked on the show. Whoever thought that was easy?
I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Imagine if you just stop crime, you get booked on one of the biggest shows.
Yeah, exactly. Just save someone from getting mugged, and you just be everywhere, bro.
That's how you network.
Exactly, man. Save fans from muggings, bro. But so with the show, who are you? Your team? Oh, you're not teaming with Lucille on this show, but who are you facing on this show?
I'm facing Sorrow. So Sorrow is a wrestler who's been around. He's been on and off around this area for like years, like decades. Probably like I've seen pictures of when he first started. Like he was very, very young. Not to say he's old. Like he's probably only a few years older than me. So, and I'm like 35 this year. Ugh.
It's all downhill after 30, bro, isn't it?
It sucks. I started wrestling when I was 30. So
really?
I'm more agile. Here's what's crazy. I'm more agile now than I was back then in terms of like my movements. Back then I couldn't do anything. Now I'm just like flipping over people and running. Like I'm more athletic than I was 5 years ago, which is weird because I was skinnier, like not skinny. I wasn't like skinny, bad skinny. I was leaner. I was going to the gym and stuff like that and lifting weights and stuff like that. But then when you get into wrestling, your training regimen completely changes.
Well, it's also probably a different thing as well, because like in professional wrestling, I can imagine like flexibility would be like a massive thing. And I suppose if you're not training in something like professional wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or amateur wrestling, stretching sort of goes out the window. Like you get your workouts in during the week, but like not many people then sort of stretch. Did you find like now compared to 5 years ago, your level of flexibility had changed?
Oh yeah, like flexibility, conditioning. Like I remember I went to Bounce, which is like I don't know if we have it in Sydney. It's like a trampoline place. Like
Yeah,
and you
we got a
jump
couple of
up.
them.
Yeah. So ironically, I have a really funny story about that. So I never went to Bounce until I actually started doing wrestling. And the first night I was there, they had those like really cushion flat grounds surrounding the trampolines. They were like mats. And I just started wrestling, bumping on it and like doing flips and landing on my back. And I got told off by the person running it, saying, "Can you please stop it? You'll literally inspire the children to do this." I'm like, "Okay, that's fair. That's fair." Um, and then I've been there a few times since, and I went there with a group of wrestlers, and we were just power bombing each other on the gymnastic mats, like doing these like these RKO, all these really cool, like the really cool stuff you like watching in like wrestling and always want to imitate on the trampoline.
Yeah.
And then I went one more time after this. And I remember I was taking my shoes off, getting my socks on, and they do an announcement saying no running, no pushing, no, that kind of stuff. No running, no pushing, no wrestling moves. And I laughed because I knew exactly what it had gone down.
It's funny because I went to a place similar that I took my kids to it, and I saw the exact same sign, like no shoes, no socks, no pro wrestling moves, and I was just like, I popped for. I was like, that's brilliant. It's like how many people come in here and try and do like an RKO out of nowhere on like their 5-year-old.
It's yeah, and like I spoke to one of the guys working there who was on duty, and I was like, so just wondering, what's with the pro wrestling sign? And I was like, because I wanted to get confirmation. Yeah. And it was funny when I found out, because when I came there, I suggested like let's go to Bounce with one person, and a couple of people came with me. And then when I spoke to this person, they were like, "Oh, these bunch of dudes apparently do pro wrestling. Come here like every second Friday and do it." Like the sons of bitches went without me. Like,
are you serious? They left you behind?
No, to be honest, I wasn't really too part of their group. Like, I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't like nothing against them. I just like I was always busy. Like I also had a partner at the time who like if you're not training, you're not wrestling, you're having time with me, or that kind of thing. And I think they kind of respected that and gave me space.
Yeah.
Whereas now my partner is just like one crazy person who wants to have a lot of fun.
The one's like, "Hey, let's go."
Yeah, she ready to go down anytime.
Oh man, that's funny though. Like I suppose those sort of like signs that they have to have now is because they probably don't want to see like teenagers like breaking each other's necks on like trampolines.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, like there's been a few little like it's because it's not like wrestling. Like I mean, if you know what you're doing, it's fun. But even when we were doing it, like it's very bouncy. So if you're doing like an RKO, there's a good chance you could bounce back up and hit someone in the head with your elbow as they're coming down with you. Like,
100%.
So imagine someone who's not trained to do it, doesn't even know how to do it properly, just like
yeah, or just picking up teeth off the floor.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, bros. Just pick your teeth up off the ground there. But
I had my teeth knocked out in the wrist like a few years ago. I know exactly what that feels like.
In a match?
Yes, in a match.
What happened there?
And it was the most nicest person too. So like I wasn't even angry. My partner at the time was like, "You should make him pay for it." And I spoke to him, and I'll tell you the story how it happened. This is why I was very polite about it. I spoke to him. Was like, he told me the situation. He's like, "I don't really work. Like I work part time because I'm studying." Like I'm like, "Oh yeah, look, don't worry about it. I'll take care of my teeth. It was just a freak accident." And he even said like, "Oh, message me if you need me to help you pay anything." I'm like, this cost me $3,000 to fix. I'm not going to ask. So what had actually happened was in the match, I was wrestling a comedy wrestler, and I still do bits of comedy. I had him in a waist lock, and I couldn't see what he's doing. I didn't know if he was selling or if he was going to do the headlock, try and grab my head. So I went to feed my head out just slightly to try and get him, try and get my head. Yeah. And he went, but he did this with his arm. Like he didn't go like this. He just went like that, like he was preparing to do something, and he got me right in the teeth. He bent this one back and then broke that one off, and it was. I had to get like this one's fake completely, and the other one had to
Yeah.
get like it was bent back so far. I bent it as much as I could forward, and then they had to grind the bottom so it all makes sense when I close my jaw now.
So it sounds like it was just bad timing on both ends, really. Like,
the worst part was it was the beginning of the match. So like, what had happened was like I had loose teeth still in my mouth, and like I didn't want to spit them out in the ring, but I didn't want to swallow them either. So I just kept in my mouth like that, and I just did the whole match, and then he hit me with his finisher that no one kicks out of. And the teeth nearly rolled down the back of my throat, and I'm trying to move to like stop it, and I accidentally kicked out.
oh,
So he knew he knocked my teeth out because I told him like, you knocked my teeth out, and he's like, I'm so sorry, like it's fine, let's just get to the end. And then like we're doing all our spots and stuff like that, and then when I kicked out, he picks me up and he goes, Blue Thunder Bomb. And I'm just like, what? And he hit me with the Blue Thunder Bomb. Luckily, he got me in the back suplex position. Like, I'll just jump. Whatever happens, happens. And
yeah.
we bumped, and I didn't swallow my teeth. I took the pin, got out. There was one audience called Heel. There was one audience who was giving me a lot of shit when I was walking back, and I smiled at him, showing I had no teeth, and he freaked out.
Oh, dude. But like, even then, like, I feel like if it happens in a match, like, can you really go to the opponent and go, hey man, you got to fix up you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you go in there, it's kind of an understanding, hey, shit can go wrong. Like,
I mean, like, even that, like, even just and he just got me. Like, it was just a complete mistimed accident. And then like my partner at the time was just very aggressive about it, like not in a bad way, just like overprotective. It was like, oh, you should get him to pay this place. Like, I would hate to be in this situation where I accidentally knock someone's teeth out, and then now I have to pay $3,000 because the dickhead didn't get insurance, like, or medical things.
But like, do you think? Do you think he did it because it was just a complete accident, or do you think it was because was he green?
No. Like, I mean, he wasn't the most experienced, but he wasn't like the least experienced. Like, he was probably at the time. So he was from a training school from a fair that's around here. I won't name him because I don't have any business with them, and that's a very, very nice professional way I can say it. But
Still good.
And look, to be blunt about it, their training is quite good. If you keep them, they teach them basics and a basic structure of a match, very good and very controlled and very safe. So this guy had been training consistently. I think he was starting to take time off at the time because someone brought it up to me, and I was like, no, but even if he is, he's still wrestling consistently as well. So, he's not his fault. It's just a freak accident. If it was like his first match, I'd be like, all right, dude, we need to talk. Like,
yeah.
But like, honestly, like when I got to the back, I literally told the guy, like, knocked my teeth out. I got to go to the hospital. And then like I went to the hospital, got myself checked up and stuff like that. And then I messaged him straight away. I'm like, hey man, just let you know I'm all right. Like, are you all right? Actually, I didn't even ask. Did I hit you? Like, because I couldn't even remember if I like accidentally, like, because he's so pumped full of adrenaline, you might accidentally strike him too hard.
Yeah.
And his response was, yeah, man, my elbow really hurts.
Oh. But like, is like, did it go through your mind to give him a receipt? Like, is that even still something that is, in modern wrestling today? Like, is a receipt even something that's still? I
don't believe in receipts. Now, the reason I don't believe in receipts is because I believe you can like be rough to control the situation, to calm it down. But I don't believe, for example, you should be hitting someone full force unsafely. Because if you hit something, like, here's an example, and I always got told this by a lot of guys, a lot of good guys around here, because there's all these jokes about receipts and stuff like that. And this guy, I'll give him a call out right now, actually, called Ricky Rembrandt. He's probably one of the most underrated guys around here. Like, he wrestles the smoothest style like you've ever seen. It's like, how everyone talks about Orton just looking smooth at everything?
Yeah.
Same sort of deal. It's actually honestly horrifying that he's not more well known, but it's probably because he doesn't travel and stuff like that. And the worst part is now he's found himself like probably realizing how confident he is. He's just had a kid, so he can't even go travel and make a name. So when he makes socials, I share them and stuff like that because I fucking think he should be noticed. But 100%. He was telling me once and he always gives the best advice in terms of like how to deal with drama and bullshit. Like he's just like, it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it, or he'll tell me how to handle it correctly. He once told me, you do not punch someone in the face or punch them for real, throw a potato, because if you knock them out after they've done something wrong to you, then you just ruined your match over something that was like a little mistake. Like that person probably didn't even do it on purpose. He probably just accidentally like got you. And like thinking to training too, the amount of people have accidentally potatoed and going, oh, I'm so sorry, like mid match, like just communicating. It just happens as long as you're not unsafely going in someone's face on purpose. Like, but he always told me if someone takes it. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
No, go.
No, you go.
No, please.
So finish this advice off. He told me that the safest way to give a receipt. So he's like, I don't believe in receipts, but if you are going to give a receipt, the safest thing to do is you grab them and you back chop them. That's all you need to do because it won't injure them. It won't hurt them that affects the match. It will be this intense screaming of pain for about 10 seconds. And in that time, they'll completely understand what they did wrong. And they won't do it again because back chops suck.
Yeah, I think we spoke about that last time with the back chop. But like I think as well, like easily to like once a guy then throws a receipt, what happens if then that work fight turns into a shoot and you've got like this amazing match and then next thing you know you've knocked someone clean out in the ring with one punch. It's like, but then again, you've then also kind of killed the business in a way because then your audience is going to sit there and go, well, hold on a second. Every other punch that these guys have thrown, no one's been dropped down, but then one punch get like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like exposing the business as well. Yeah,
100%. And that's another thing too. When they realize that punches don't have a snap noise to it or don't make a thud, they're going to be like, Like, let's be honest. We've all been out in the city and had a few drinks and we've seen a fight break out. It's boring. Like it's so messy and gross. Like it's the least most entertaining thing. It's like it's like watching a bunch of toddlers grapple each other on the ground and ripping their shirts off by accident, and like because the majority of person who's in a fight is, and I don't know why it is, but they always out of shape people who are trying to start a fight. And then
it's also untrained people as well, like people that have never like even trained combat sports are the ones that have the biggest balls. And it's like, but you know what? Like, honestly, dude, I've trained MMA and boxing and stuff. And to get into a physical altercation on a street scares the shit out of me because I'm like, there's so many different factors.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like, one thing I remember, like, because I've been hit in the face so many times since doing wrestling. And it's that theory of like, once you've been punched in the face, you're free. You realize you're not gonna die if someone gets you in the face, or like when you get punched, you realize the punch is not as terrifying as you think. It can be very deadly, but you realize it's nothing like to what you've built it up in your mind. Even with that confidence, I still do everything I can to avoid a fight. Because it does not matter how trained you are. All it takes for you to look away for a millisecond, get punched in the temple, fall down, hit yourself, and die. Like it's and then what if you kill someone like by accident? It's the same problem. You go to throw a punch, they just move awkwardly and connect in the wrong spot, and you kill them. Like you're fucked.
Yeah, dude. It's and that's the thing. You know, why would you want to have on your conscience like after a night out of you then, you know, injuring someone to the point where they're a vegetable or vice versa, and then your family have got to. But again, man, like when people sort of get a gut full of fucking alcohol, you know, and those beer confidence kicks in, people don't give a fuck. That, you know, they're ready to go into that, and it's a scary thing to see. But you know, again, you know, a street fight from two drunk guys rolling around the floor, yeah, it can be pretty funny.
Like. I remember when like we've all heard of when I was a teenager, we all heard about the bum fights and everything like that. Like,
Yeah.
those old things. I remember everyone telling me about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like something that's really cool." And I watched it, and my ADHD brain was like, "This is boring. Do something else." Like it's because it's a real fight never looks like what a fight that looks like in the movie. That's why it's in the movie. They've glamorized it. MMA,
Exactly.
controlled fighting, like controlled and disciplined people who know what they're doing. Those fights are like you'll never see those in the street because they're like they can end in 3 seconds, or you literally have if you saw people grapple with each other in the street, like in that sort of technical prowess, there's a good chance it probably wouldn't even get that far. If someone knew how to fight like an MMA fighter, there's no way it's going to get to the ground. That guy's just gonna, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. But even then, on a street fight, if you go down to the ground, someone's just going to kick you in the fucking head. There's no
100%.
laws against. There's no rules against it in that sort of fight, and I think that's why, like, I've seen once in a bar fight a guy just sit there and go, literally just drop down to his knees, like, "Yeah, I'm good at jiu-jitsu. Let's go." And he's like sitting on the floor, and the guy just went bang and kicked him straight in the mouth, and I'm like, well, that fucking didn't work well.
I remember I was telling a few friends one night, and I was saying like, "Oh, have you ever been into like a street fight?" I'm like, "No, I've never been. I've had people attack me, like when they've been drunk, and I've managed to like outmaneuver and get away, like because like I've always been told by like people like don't try and instigate a fight, don't try and get involved in the fight, just stick your back against the wall and slide away, block or run, like just run, like they're not going to chase you, they're just going to try and hurt your ego to come back and fight them. And you know what? That doesn't. Who gives a fuck if you beat a drunk person? Like the police will, but like I always said, like, oh, if you were cornered in a street fight, like what would you do? It's like I'll kick him in the balls. Like I have no shame. I have no like I'll kick him on the nads. They'll go down and I'll run off. Like it's just It's like, you know why? Because there's no ego involved in a real fight. It's self-defense. Run away. don't get involved.
Have you ever seen, like, in your years wrestling, ever seen guys like start shooting in a match?
Yeah, I have, and I get so angry at it because, like, when I came into wrestling, there was a guy who I can't remember what happened, but it was just some dude. He got involved in this guy's personal life, and I was still a fan at this point, just starting to come in to try and train.
Yeah.
This guy took offense to something he did in his personal life, and in the match, he got him in a chokehold and then legit wrenched it. And the ref knew what was going to happen, because obviously I think the guy told him before they walked out. Rung the bell, like he just ended it. Mm-hmm. And then the guy got up, and as he was walking to the back, screamed at him like, "That's what you get for blah 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 blah," whatever he did. And I remember seeing that, thinking that it's just like every single person I knew who was involved in wrestling at times sided with this guy who choked this guy out because they didn't like this dude. Like whoever he was, they didn't like him. And originally, like I didn't get myself involved in it. I just ignored it. The guy got choked. Like he was very upset and very angry, and like he even went back there and tried to fight the guy for real, and they had to break him up and stuff like that. But when I saw it, it looked just annoying. Like it looked like if I was a fan, I wouldn't know what the fuck's going on. I'd just be so angry that I paid money for something, and it's just like that. If that was wrestling, I'd rather go home and play 2K14. You know what I mean?
It's just a shit show, you know.
Yeah, it was just a shit thing. And then what made it even worse was like for about a year or two after that, people still talked about it, and they were like talking about how this guy, like, oh yeah, he got what he deserved, like stuff like that. And it's like, is that the culture? Like, you guys are like happy that some dude shot on this guy in a match? Like it's so cowboy.
Like even if he deserved it, like there's a time and a place, right? Like in front of a crowd. In a live match, like it's kind of like defeats the purpose of what professional wrestling is, where it's like protect your opponent.
Like that's the thing. I wrestled some dude recently. Not wrestled. We're involved in the Rumble recently, And we actually was that Dreadful? No, it was not Dreadful. We're not talking about Dreadful.
Well, now you know what I want to ask you, don't you?
Oh, fuck. There was fuck, Spade. I didn't even forget what I was going to say. What was I talking about? There was something important here.
We're talking about the guys shooting on each other in the ring.
Yeah, so there was a meeting about this, and this is when I just came in to help out with like the show, every show. I was helping every single show that was running because I wanted to just absorb as much as I could. And they had a meeting with him, and they were telling him, and I remember I remember being witness to this meeting and listening to them say like, you did this, blah, blah, blah. And that's how he reacted. I'm like, what? This is a company, both of them would be fired or sent home and never be used again until they decide which one is the least problematic. But yeah, and it's just, I still look at that and think, fucking hell, like it's the worst attitude in wrestling is to think you can go out there and shoot on someone. Like, don't get me wrong, you can shoot like in a way, like like Davis Storm was telling me once that because he has he knows how to do like grapple and shoot wrestle and stuff like that. He once told me he had a match with Suzuki, and Suzuki in the match kept going like, come on, like saying come on to him. And he I should mute it when I cough. That's a good idea. Thanks, Piers. He just gave me a good idea.
Hey man, professionally training everybody.
So Storm said he kept going like, come on. And Storm thought he meant like he was just, bantering. But then as time went on, he realized, oh, he wants to go. Like he wants to. And you can shoot and then all you're doing is you're shooting till you get too much of an advantage and you let them have an advantage to get out of it and go over again. And all it does is it makes it look very MMA-esque. But real, but like good real, like not sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's the thing. You could kind of like do a shoot sort of grapple sort of jiu-jitsu thing and it kind of would like work in well to a match. Like I think the fans who don't know any different or any better wouldn't probably even pick up on it, but if they saw like a shoot punch get thrown, that's a completely different story,
I mean, I know we ignore, I understand we ignore this, but a punch isn't even allowed in the wrestling match. Like if you go by the rules.
That's the thing I never understood. It's like what's the go? Like, is it like because they say like, yeah, you can't have a closed fist punching in wrestling. I remember that years ago. They all look closed.
So it's a dumb thing where they go like, yeah, so this is it. It's not code. It's not tight. It's this.
So you're punching someone with a limp hand.
A limp hand. You're hurting yourself doing that. By the way.
Yeah, like I could just imagine. Like that's more hurting my hand than my face. Like.
The reason you closed it in is to give it that tight kinetic force so you don't hurt your hand. If you've ever punched someone, your hand's still going to hurt. Imagine doing it with an open thing.
Dude, that's just like going to break your fingers almost.
Yeah, 100% on your knuckle.
Yeah, that'd be nasty, dude.
So you want to do the Dreadful story? I can do it.
Let's do it.
So when I was starting out, fuck you, Spade.
You don't want to do it? We don't have to do it.
No, it's fine because it's a story. It will come out like if I don't say it, it will come out on Twitter because there's some people out there who remember it and they wait for moments like these to be like, here's the photos. So when I started out in wrestling, I I was training with a bunch of people who decided to put me in a match and I didn't know how to say no to it. Like, oh God. And I was very not ready. So one night I sat down and I was like, I need to get wrestling gear, which will never look good. Because at the time I wasn't earning much money. Like I was paying so many bills. I was like, it's never going to look good enough to be in like considered great. I don't know how to wrestle yet. And I would rather just debut when I'm looking good at like what I do. And it was like, I just kept, the list kept going on. And I was just like, I need a solution. And then one night, I think it was, I was reading comics and I realized Deadpool. And I love Deadpool. And there was a movie coming out too. And I was like, oh, okay. It'd be interesting. Deadpool was a parody of Deathstroke. And then it became the biggest thing. What if I just did this trash fucking gimmick? Because at the time, like trash bag was like a big thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if all these people who try to avoid getting put on trash bag? What if I purposely aim for it while wearing a mask? So I got a Deadpool costume. I cut off the sleeves, the long things, so you can see my fucking like arms that looked jacked at the time as well, which was great. Like not jacked, but like good and like strong enough. And I called myself.
I like that, jacked, not jacked, but strong enough.
Yeah, strong enough. I got big arms now, so I'm happy with them. And then I called myself Dreadful because it's meant to be dreadful, like in DREADFOOL.
I got to see these photos.
What's dreadful, Bobby? I just answered it. Spade.
Sorry, that was the old question. I just brought it up. My apologies.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But yeah, like dread. It was It was like it was in a Deadpool costume and stuff like that, and like I knew what was going to happen, but there was like people were going to be like, "Oh, it's disgusting. It's gross." I'm like, I know. That's the point, because I don't want to wrestle as myself right now, because I'll never be able to like look good. Like no one's going to take me seriously in that first impression.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and it's funny because like so many people I'm friends with now remember it, but some of them don't know it was me until it gets brought up. Like
do you know someone though? Like usually?
No. Oh, one time I was hanging with Davis and the couple of guys at the school, and someone brought it up, and then I was just randomly commenting saying like, "Oh yeah, I remember one time they put my match up as Dreadful versus Shadow, and Shadow was a character that was a parody of Deathstroke, and yeah, they put it up as like dead. You can find it on YouTube. You can find some like my match from Supernova on YouTube, but Deadpool versus Deathstroke, like that kind of look to it." And Mark Davis in his shoot account commented on it saying like, "This is fucking disgusting," and we didn't know each other at the time, and then when he brought it up, someone showed a picture and he was laughing, and then I just like, "Oh yeah, you think that's funny?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember one time I put it up and fucking Davis over there said it was fucking disgusting," and he's just lost his shit because I think he didn't remember doing it, but he's like, "Yeah, I probably did do that." And we're friends now. So and then
but I feel like every like wrestler has had that like one like bad gimmick, or you know what I mean, or that gimmick that they just sort of like cringe at when they look back though.
Yeah, like the character I did too, which was ironic. I like the idea. I wanted to eventually transform it from a Deadpool costume into something. And then I wrestled and I got my foot broken as the character. And then like I had to get the gear off when I was going to the hospital because I couldn't my foot was so messed up. It had like I did a crossbody and I slipped off the rope and the guy caught me and he fell because the ring was wet. Because for some reason we decided to wrestle in a ring that had just been rained on, like sprinkled rain. And we just slipped in this one spot. It was the dumbest thing I've ever did. Since then, I've been very much like, nah, I'm not going to wrestle in there. Like if it looks like that, his whole weight landed on my foot and snapped it. So, I had to take the clothes off, on the way to the hospital, and it was getting it off was so painful, like because my foot was swelling, like it was, damaged. Anyway, we eventually get to the hospital. I finally got the gear off. I threw it in the back of the car. We were there for 5 hours, and then when they did the X-ray, they were like, they looked at it and like my foot. They looked at my foot from I think it was like this position. No, this position, and slightly on the side. And they were like, yeah, look, it looks. I think you've just sprained it. I can't see any break there. And they brought out the last one, the very last picture they took, which was this way, and there was a complete line straight. Like just down, and the doctor was like, oh my god, that's the cleanest break I've ever seen. It had snapped it. The only reason they could see it was because my foot was slightly off, like tiniest bit off of like up. One side was up just a bit higher than the other through that line. Like that was the only reason they were able to see it. And they were like, that is the cleanest break I've ever seen. Like your foot is practically completely snapped in half, but it's somehow jammed together because of how clean the break is. And then They squished it together to get it right into place, plastered it, and they looked at it, they gave it to some specialists, and they're like, yeah, this guy's not going to need surgery. It's too clean. It's not messed up or anything.
So, that's a good thing, though. Like, if it's a clean, simple break, like, obviously there's no bones protruding or anything like that.
Nah, nothing like. I remember hearing the sound when the guy landed on me, like, oh, something snapped, like it was a crack. And then I got home, and the Deadpool costume was full of so much sweat at the time because I was obviously like in so much pain, and I wrestled. Yeah. Anyway, I grabbed it, threw it into the laundry, never to look at it for a while, like while I rest my foot. Yeah. About a week later, I went to it, and my cats had peed all over my costume multiple times because I hated the smell of it. And then I took it as a sign of like, yeah, I think this is done. It's like
time for a new gimmick, brother.
It's not, yeah, and like it's funny now, like when I think about it. So I thought at the time the idea I had for this sort of comedy character, the mask and stuff like that, and was a parrot, like just complete dumbfounded idiot character who does all these comedy spots. And then I met Fudge and realized, you know what? I'm kind of glad I didn't proceed with that character because I was never going to outdo that. Like, and honestly, that is closer to what I was imagining too. So I was like, he already hit that mark way before me. So
yeah, and he does it really well. Like his comedic timing is ridiculous.
He is. Like, I thought I was like good at comedy wrestling, and then I met him, and he's like, nah, his timing is amazing. Like I think I rely too much on comedy in my matches when I wrestle as Bobby Bishop, and I don't get away with it as much. But he can wear a mask, and it's just how he sells it, and everything he does is just on point, just hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. Like, as far as like how you're wrestling now, like, you know, you said like you try and do a lot of comedy involved in it as well. But how do you find it is it difficult for you to try and mix it up to go from like a seriousness to comedy, like in the same sort of night, in the same sort of match? Is that something possible that you guys can do?
No. I mean, like I can still do comedy, and that's probably what's really good about it, is like I can still be funny if I want to. I just want to look. I just do a character now that is. I just want to win the fucking match, but I want to be like. But I'll do something slapstick. I won't do something dumb. I will do something stupid. Like I'll make a mistake, or I'll sell in a certain way where it looks funny, or you know, I will banter I'll banter to someone, and then like I remember, like I think I told you last time, the Hey Bailey, song, like Hey Bailey, like that one. Yeah, I got all the audience wants to scream "Hey Bobby" in that song, and it was so it was the peak of like how popular I was. Like I literally I'm not gonna. Yeah,
that is absolutely amazing, man. And the crowd gets into it.
Yeah, dude, they were going crazy. Like, and I was so happy about it. So I was like, oh my god, this is because everyone knew I was getting popular. And then when that happened, I remember Xander Sullivan saying like, yeah, you know, Bobby's pretty much like super over now. Like, and he's only had a few matches. Like he's ultra over with this crowd. And then when they finished the song, they were like, I want you to be my girl. And everyone's clapping. I'm about to wrestle. And I look and like, wait, girl. like that kind of like that kind of slapstick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I absolutely love it.
I miss those chants.
Yeah, man. Maybe you can get them to cover, get a comeback with it.
Maybe.
But what sort of wrestling are you watching these days, man? Like, what do you get inspiration from the most?
I'm a huge, I'm a big '80s fan of wrestling. I love the NWA period. I think like Tully Blanchard, for example. I think Tully Blanchard is fucking phenomenal. And should actually be 100% noticed way more than like, I know everyone talks about Arn and stuff like that, but like Tully Blanchard is amazing. Like, it's just something about the way he struts. There's something about the way he moves, his facials, the way how vicious he looks when he's on top. He's just like pristine wrestler. It's the same. It's weird watching like everyone like gets into like how like the NWA Power episodes are like so old school, but I always ask him, like, have you actually watched the old school episodes, or are you just comparing photos? Like,
yeah, exactly.
like, don't get me wrong, like they're great shows, but have you actively watched them? Because if you have, I want to have a discussion about it because I think it's some of the best wrestling that's just been. It's just a forgotten period. Like everyone talks, I know everyone talks about it, but do they really know about it? Do they really go, or do they just go watch the best of Ric Flair or the best of the NWA period? Do they actually go and watch? Do they go onto the WWE network and watch those shows where half the show is like enhancement matches with a big match at the end of it?
Dude, I actually just watched, I just watched Starcade. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the Legion of Doom in a scaffold match against beautiful Bobby Eaton and the Midnight Express, and I was just like, that was honestly like I sat there, watched the whole card bell to bell, and like with that one match, where I was just sitting there going, this is brilliant. Like, there's no way they could ever do this. Like, yeah, I mean, like in 2021, I don't think we'll ever see a scaffold match. But like,
not to that degree. That damaged people too. Like there's people in that match. I mean, Cornette is one who still suffer from the damage they took in that match.
Yeah, dude. Like I heard a story. Like I think it was Cornette was talking about it, where they had a guy set up a scaffold for like the scaffold match, and the guy putting it together was like, "Yep, sweet," and was standing on top of the scaffold, then jumped off the scaffold and landed on his feet, and just was like. And just walked off, and the whole audience was like, "What the fuck?" Like, we're about, basically, this guy killed the whole fucking main event just by like he climbed down like a certain degree, then just sort of jumped down and landed on his feet, got out of the ring, and walked off. And he was like the guy setting it up. And I was like, "That's the funniest thing ever."
That's that'd be like they put up and they make the ring collapse, like it collapses and they set it back up and leave it for the main event, like.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, like going back on the 80s wrestling too. I love 80s wrestling. I love MLW. Like I love watching a mixture of good wrestling, and there's good indie wrestling and there's kind of like raw indie wrestling. I'm not gonna say bad indie wrestling, because bad indie wrestling, there needs to be in bad indie wrestling, because it's like listening to your favorite indie band and listening to their demos. The demos aren't great. It has potential. But when you listen to the raw form of it, it also helps inspire your ideas as well. You have understanding where you are, what you're going to do to improve. If you're watching someone in a bad indie match and you watch what they're doing, and then you look at it and you be like, I don't do that, I don't look like that, then you have immediately self-reservation of like, oh, I'm actually a little bit better now. Like, then this guy obviously was at this level. And then you're able to start measuring yourself a bit better. And at the same time, you can, in a raw match, I've seen some like terrible matches, but then there's this random one spot where I'm like, that's a really good idea. Why isn't anyone doing that? Like kind of spots.
Yeah, but it also comes down to like some random psychology. Like I was told a story once where like there was this guy, it was like just this indie show, and it was a tag team main event. And the main thing, one of the performers was that much of an idiot. He refused to tag out, kept the match going. They called for the finish, like going, okay, you have to take the pinfall. 1, 2, bang, he kicks out. And they actually pushed him in the corner so his partner could force a tag. When it came down for the 1, 2, he jumped in to stop it. The guys that were supposed to go over are like, what the fuck are you doing? And the guy's like, no, like, just keep going. And you think the immaturity of it. But by the time that the match finished, he actually got the pinfall, because the guys that were supposed to go over were just like, fuck it, just let him win just so we can get this match over with. But when they finally got the 1, 2, 3, the place fucking erupted. Because he was able to...
Yeah.
But no, because he was able to get the crowd were into it, because every false finish, I'm like, and he got the crowd that was sitting on their hands to go through. But the guy's a complete fucking idiot. And that goes against every rule of wrestling. It's like about going into business for yourself mid-match.
Oh, like I love listening to cowboy stories, but I hate seeing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Also, if you ever want to talk to someone who's a big history buff in wrestling in terms of 80s wrestling and 90s, all that stuff, Todd Eastman sends me more matches than I watches sometimes. Like, he's got me into Smoky Mountain Wrestling at the moment because it's for free on YouTube somewhere, and I've got a link for it. I watch it all the time now. When it's my ritual before I go to bed, I put it on and start watching it, and if I start falling asleep, I'll just turn it off and then watch the rest later.
How good is Smoky Mountain though?
So yeah, it's very cool to like. I keep forgetting that it was such a like 90s thing, like, you know what I mean, like 80 in the late 80s and the 90s. I always forget that, and then when I watch it, I'm like, oh right, hey, look, it's Bob Holly before he became Bob Holly, like, you know, like that kind of thing.
I just love that they had a guy called Dirty White Boy.
Oh, right.
That to me makes me pop more than anything. Like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's been a weird, like, you know, it's been in terms of wrestling, I've sort of the past 2 weeks haven't been able to watch it. And then it's funny how much has changed since our last conversation, the Ric Flair thing. And then like all the dark side and
But even Tommy Dreamer, man, like Tommy Dreamer's getting like, you know, I mean, he's getting slammed for just trying to protect one of the, like, you know, his comments of justifying it, like, I think were a bad choice of words, but in the same sense, like, I saw what he said and how he said it, and it was like, man, he was just trying to protect Ric Flair and, you know what I mean, trying to downplay it for the boys. But Dark Side of the Ring, man, like, he didn't know how they were going to play it out with her being it as well.
One thing that got me thinking about it, like, I don't know. Yes, you're right. Like, I mean, Tommy Dreamer, what he said was dumb. Like, it was stupid. I mean, I don't know the guy personally. I met him once, and he was very blunt with me, but he wasn't in a polite way. But I can see that by RVD tweets recently that how they were asking the questions and what they showed was completely different. Like, they edited very creatively to show sort of something that they were pushing for. So like, it could have just been Tommy Dreamer ranting about, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't defending it and wasn't using those wrong statements, but was the question what we thought it was that he was being asked when he was answering?
And to be honest, like, I've spoken to a few people that have been associated with some Dark Side of the Ring stuff in the past, and how they do business is very sketchy. Like, they're very conniving. I'll put it that way. They're very sly.
I don't know. It might be. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I like always think there's more to everything. Like, you know, the whole thing, like the news, for example, and stuff like that. If wrestling's at work, why can't everything else be?
Man, you know what? I think that, like, there's more stuff that we see on the news that's a work than a shoot. To be honest, like, it's got
100%. And like, going back on, in case anyone ever watches this and thinks, like, when I watched that episode, I absolutely like was upset and sad when they showed that lady talking about her experience. So, like, just to clarify that, I did feel absolutely horrible seeing that. I just think as well, I don't trust the TV show, if that makes sense.
Look, at the end of the day, what's funny for someone can be damaging for someone else. And it's like, if whatever happened, you know, went down that way, then that's horrendous for her. And I definitely feel sympathetic towards her. But in the same sense, it's like, you know, 20 years later after the fact, like, you know, I think it's like everybody knows what's happened. It's been spoken about. And I think that, you know, Dark Side of the Ring kind of, I don't know. I think they kind of set it up a bit.
Because I try to stay out of this sort of stuff.
Same.
Like online, because I don't want people to think that I'm biasly picking a side or anything like that. But when it came after that episode, I almost tweeted about it, and I stopped myself because I was like, I don't want to get involved in this. But I almost tweeted saying, everyone's naming people that should be cancelled or they're angry at. Is anyone going to notice how fucking absolutely unforgivably douchebag that husband is? Like, for like the comments they were making about him, and like how she said, like, oh, he made me do this. Like, like, the husband sounds like the worst guy at the moment. Not the worst than obviously the people who did the damage. I'm just being like, he sounds like the most unsupportive dickhead. But like, at the same time, before I tweeted it, the first thing in my head is like, okay, one, if I tweet this and then Dark Side of the Ring retract that information later on, or change up, or say, hey, look, the interview wasn't completely, you know, reliable and stuff like that, or something goes wrong like that. It's like, then I've literally put something up online that people are going to throw back at me when I like actually truly try to attack something that I believe should be attacked straight away.
Yeah, 100%.
And to be fair, that like my voice online is not going to change anything that's happening right now online. So
Yeah, but I think as well, like, since last time we spoke about that, like, what's really going to happen with Ric Flair? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the stories about him have been like going around for years. Like, would anyone be surprised? Like, was there any like level of surprise from you about it though?
I think I had I feel like you can be a sleaze bag and a piece of shit and not like sexually assault someone and not manipulate someone. You know what I mean? You not cross the
Agree.
line. And I assumed Ric Flair was that. Like I assumed like he's just a adulting fucking man child, like who's probably bad in relationships. And I always thought, okay, most girls probably around him probably know Rick's shtick and probably and like this is not me saying that anyone who's been fucking sexually assaulted deserves it, by the way.
No.
But like it's I always assumed that every girl who's ever interacted with Ric Flair knew what they were doing. I mean, knew what he was like, and just like were part of the shtick as well. However, as I've gotten older and realized, like, man, like, imagine if he was like, especially hearing stories of Ric Flair being Ric Flair outside of the wrestling and in his real life.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot fathom like where to begin with like how problematic that can be in certain situations. Like, imagine Ric Flair going to church as Ric Flair, like as Ric Flair, like doing like speaking the way he speaks and acting the way he is at church on a Sunday.
Yeah,
like that's a terrifying thought. And when you think of those little things, like, and to be fair, like it's hard to know what like. It was like one of the times when like everyone was thinking a lot of allegations were going to come out from Hugh Hefner when he died. And then I remember friends of mine saying like, yeah, I knew someone who met Hugh Hefner. He was a really good, like apparently he's a really good dude. And I'll hear my other friends go, oh, have you met him? Then you don't know. Like it's the same thing with Ric Flair. Like no one really knows what a guy's like unless they're around them like 24/7. But even then, like apparently the accusers from the Speak Out movement, like there have been people who were around who didn't even know they were doing shit. Like I'm not going to name names because like I feel like this person's already got enough eyes on him online. But there was a wrestler in particular who did something very fucking horrible to one of his students. Oh, sorry, manipulated the students. Without naming names, probably gave away a little bit. But obviously I know some of the I've met some of the guys who were around that circle, and even they didn't know about it, that this was happening. And like they thought there's something on, but there's nothing. It's very similar to the Dark Side of the Ring when they talked about Jake's dad.
Yeah.
Like, like if you try to look for like if and you talk to him about it, like, did you notice it? Like there was nothing there to see. Like I couldn't see any. Like I didn't notice anything was happening. But then it all came out, and then it surprised them. Even the people who are closest to probably like Ric Flair, like they can be defensive about him, but do they really know? Were they around him all the time? Like,
and that's the thing. People perceive and give out what they want you to know. You know what I mean? And especially people that are like that way inclined, they even sometimes or most of the time will be protective of it until they know, okay, I can be who I really am around this person. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it takes a lot for the, especially for people like that mentality. But it's funny that you mentioned like, Jake's dad, because that was brought up in Beyond the Mat, like in 1998.
Oh yeah, I remember listening to that and thinking like, okay, why wasn't I watched Beyond the Mat when I was like 20 or 19 or something like that, and I remember hearing like, oh, did his dad get arrested? And then only to grow 10 years later to realize he never got arrested. Like that was just allowed.
Not even charged, like not charged or anything.
Yeah, like that documentary made me really like that. Actually, that one actually shocked me more than all of them because it just feels like the evidence there was already enough to like investigate him.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just like I think, but like from what from what you've seen in the Speaking Out movement for years, people sort of like swept shit like that under the rug, or like downplayed it to a certain degree, and that's where it's like, well, no, it's not acceptable. And you know what I mean? Those sort of people started getting cleaned out of the business eventually as well.
I mean, absolutely. I hate people who wish that we can go do the whole like, I wish we can go back to where it was before, like where we didn't know about these things. And like, are you kidding? Like, are you okay with that? Like at the moment, like when we started our school, me and Lucille, there's a few people on this scene who are no longer allowed back in wrestling. And some, like I don't know personally because I wasn't there. I wasn't there for like their allegations. I wasn't there for what's happening, like what got them banned. So I can't just be like, this person is this or this person is that. What I can say is allowing someone who has a problematic allegation against them into a business is a bad business decision. And especially if they have multiple allegations, it's like, because we all saw in Speak Out, like people got called out for supporting their friends who were like had allegations against them, or were still trying to book their friends who had allegations against them. And unfortunately, some of these people, like I'm not going to say if I like them or not, but some of them have friends who still, up until recently, would wish that I would allow these people to come back to training. And we'll word it in such a way whereas you should take a stand against cancel culture and stuff like that. And my first response is that's my train of thought is okay, do you have a business? Are you going to take a stand, or are you just expecting me to put my business at risk and take a stand? It doesn't matter what I personally believe, if they're innocent or guilty. It's not. It's business, and you need to respect that. And unfortunately, when I see people like booking people who are problematic, and then it bites them. Like, look what's happening with Bandina at the moment with what's his name, Travis Banks.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, I don't know what the full detail is if he knew, but if he was taking a chance, thinking he wasn't going to notice, he got burnt. And that's exactly what I think about when I about letting some of these people in who are like, maybe not, but because there's no stopping if they have multiple allegations against them. What's stopping people calling us hypocrites for allowing him? And when we've been such a positive, we're a positive culture. We're trying not to let this toxic wrestling scene to exist anymore. Anyway, this is live, so I've probably just buried myself a bit.
No, not at all. But like, let me ask you this: do you think that like with people that are being, for speaking out and having that sort of that movement happen, do you think that some people took opportunities to take liberties to try and damage people's careers just for the sake of it?
Yeah,
just because that due to personal vendetta, I should say.
Oh, absolutely. There was. Sorry. There was a friend of mine who. This is a small example. He got called out for. I'm not going to name names either because I don't want him to have people ask him or anything.
No, of course.
But he went out. He went out to the clubs and he had a few drinks, and he met a girl and he chatted her up. Anyway, like they both had a few drinks and stuff like that. He took this girl back to his apartment, and when he got there, he just wasn't keen anymore because he had too much to drink. And he realized it. And he said, and because he's a lazy person, hell, I'm a lazy person. Like I hate when I'm drunk. I actually hate when I'm surrounded by people because they drive me crazy. Like it's like a very antisocial thing.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, he asked the girls like, look, this isn't going to happen. I'm just really fucking tired. I want to go to bed. So I can call you a cab, or I can set you a place on my couch to go to sleep or something like that. He was just being very upfront about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't think anything of it. And so this girl went home, nothing happens. It was fine. He didn't see her for hasn't seen her since. And then he found out he didn't see it when it happened, but he found it through a few friends who sent it to him saying, hey, you remember that night you went home with this girl? Yeah, well, she did a speak out on you. And he looked at the speak out, and even the speak out doesn't make sense. And when I mean it doesn't make sense, it's the story was this guy who's a famous wrestler, or has a big name, manipulated me to come back to his apartment, and like he didn't sleep with me. Like she literally like says, I didn't sleep with him. We didn't sleep with each other. But he manipulated me all night. But that was it. Like, and then it's like, wait, what? And then I was looking at the comments, and even people who were like, people who I know have been supportive of the Speak Out movement, and like, how fuck this person. Even they're like, what? What do you mean?
It just sounds like they would. Did you tell this? Like, yeah, he propositioned me, and then he changed his mind. Like,
so you're upset that he manipulated you and then didn't sleep with you? Like, and it sounds so cliche. Like, it sounds like such a opposite, like not a cliche, like an opposite of a cliche. And like, it's almost that can't be real. Like, but no, it didn't happen. And I also had a few friends who got called out for stuff that they did 15 years ago that was actually part of a skit, not an actual, like, it wasn't his personal feelings, it wasn't his personal opinion. He just he filmed a skit, he said these words, and they used it against him, and they were trying to cancel him over that. And I remember thinking, like, that's upsetting, because the guy has shown so much growth since that era. And let's be honest, like, we've all said things when we were like 15 years ago. We've said things to our friends that we don't say anymore. We've said things online we definitely don't say anymore that shouldn't never be brought up and be like, you're a piece of shit. Like, yeah, I was a piece of shit back then, but I'm not a piece of shit now, because I've learned that to grow from that, whoever that person was, they didn't know what they were really saying was hurtful. They didn't really know what they were talking about. They were just bullshitting online.
Or saying something out of anger without really, like,
yeah.
It's funny. Like, I was watching a CZW show. That was, I think it was around 2005, and in the promo, like, one of the wrestlers is like, using a homophobic slur. But then it was, but then in 2005, when you said that, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't as, Like, it wasn't as like, like as it is in 2021. It still doesn't make it right to use it to get that shock value, but like, still, like, it's just amazing how things have changed.
There was, it was a recent, I'm not going to name names. Like, I don't want to name names, because I don't want to like start anything online. But I remember, there was a wrestler who's quite famous, but whether that famous is infamous or actually famous, I will not say, because it's very easy to pinpoint if I describe him in a certain way. But I remember watching one of his matches, and he was wrestling a very flamboyant wrestler who was who usually wrestles a face, but he decided he was going to wrestle as a heel for this match. And they were doing this thing where the good guy, the famous guy, did like a big comeback on him and stuff like that. And then as he was feeding up to hit him with the big move, he was like, come on, someone tell this fairy to get up. And I remember just watching it like, what?
What did I just see this thing?
It's 2018. What just happened? What? He's like, I don't think I've heard anyone call someone a fairy in like, I don't know. I think I was a kid.
Like, I think that's a very like 80s and 90s kind of term as an insult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, because like back then, like flamboyant wrestlers were always heels, and they probably used that because the fairy word is probably the least, least aggressive F word, I dare say, that's homophobic.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it in this day and age where you see, wrestlers that are, flamboyant or, come across, gay, lesbian, bi, trans, whatever it may be. And it's more like, it's not the comedy spot of a wrestling show anymore. It can be taken like, this is a performer that happens to have, this is who they are, but it's not a comedy. It's not a joke. Like, they can be perceived as, You know what I mean? Like it's no longer just that comedy spot. It's like more empowering, I think, now in 2021.
I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, there's a certain show around here, and it won't be named as well because I've already said what. That had a bra and panties match recently. And
I was actually going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bra and panties match, big reveal was it wasn't a girl versus girl in a bra and panties match. It was a girl versus a dude dressed as a girl. And they thought that was going to clear everything up. But it doesn't. It now goes into a different realm of being insulting.
It does.
And
did you know who the performers were in the match?
Yeah, I did. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I reacted when I saw it, and I shouldn't have. I angry reacted to the post, and as soon as I did it, I was like, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? Like, I'm not going to get rid of it because it's, people are going to call me out if I get rid of it. Like, they'll be like tagging me and stuff because that's how cutthroat online is.
Yeah.
So I've just accepted it that I've done it and it's a mistake, and I'll never get involved again. I knew the people in the match, and like I'm not super duper friends with them, but I know I've met them. I had conversations with them. I don't really talk to them now because like I know they know I disagreed with the match, and there's no point in me like talking to them, and they probably don't talk to me anyway. Like I've seen them online make little jabs anyway. But I knew people who did talk to him. And the very only girl in the match, she sort of talked about how she wanted to do it. And that was sort of the defense, was that she wanted to do this match, even before it was revealed it was a dude.
Yeah.
My problem with it is, mute. A bra and panties match, kayfabe story is you're stripping someone down to their underwear against their will, and it is the most problematic kayfabe story that you can tell in this day and age, especially after the Speak Out movement has just come through. There's a reason why the girls who talk about bra and panties matches back in the day with like hatred. It's because it's such a demoralizing thing. Like it's such a thing that like it is two things. You're either trying to attract creeps to the show who shouldn't be there, or you're just okay with accepting that kayfabe story is a sexual assault. And unfortunately, these people who did this match don't see it that way. Like I don't know what, I don't really talk to them anymore, but like they're more all about like hating on like intergender wrestling. Like some of the defenses I've heard is they'll like, you do intergender wrestlings and stuff like that. And like, that's two people having a combat in an agreed combat sport. You can't compare that to me trying to strip someone against their will.
Yeah, like stripping someone down. Like, but even like watching them back in the Attitude Era and years ago, watching that sort of stuff, man. Like, to me, I like, as being a straight white male sitting there watching it. Like, even as a kid, as a red-blooded teenager, I'd sit there and go, this doesn't feel, you know what I mean? Like,
it's not attractive.
Like seeing a woman like standing there scared, like being stripped down, or like even Trish Stratus on all fours barking like a dog. You know what I mean? I get where they were trying to go with that from a character aspect now, like understanding a little bit more. But even then, I'm just like, why? Like, this is just humiliating.
Like, that's the thing. It's funny thing you mentioned the Trish Stratus thing. Like, I used to tell people, like, imagine that scene, Vince McMahon telling like Trish Stratus to do all that stuff. Now, I want you to imagine if that was in a movie. Would that movie be a comedy, or would it be a drama scene? Because it feels like it doesn't mix with comedy. It feels like if someone's like get on the ground and bark, and they started doing that, almost looking like crying doing it. There's nothing funny about it. Like, it's not funny.
It's humiliation.
It's humiliation. And it's like, if that movie came out to, like, if that movie got brought up today, where that scene was in, it was a comedy, that so many people would be attacking, saying that's the most problematic thing that you could have done back then.
But it's funny. Like, I spoke with a woman called Foxy Fox, and she was an indie worker around the early 2000s, and she was telling me like when she just wanted to wrestle, and it was like
Yeah.
to the point where like promoters would like she dyed her hair blonde because she would get more bookings being a blonde, and when they found out she dyed her hair red, she lost a you know what I mean? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, but what the fuck does it matter? I can still go in the ring. Yeah, but we needed you to be you know what I mean? Like it took a while for them. And she was sitting there going like, all we wanted to do as females was go in there, perform, but we were just perceived our time was this is how women's wrestling is. And it's like, and she even said, you have to understand, she goes, I was in my early 20s. I was still learning about my sexuality as an individual, as a female, and then having to go and do these things. It's kind of like, you know, she even said she's like she didn't feel comfortable in her own skin as a human being, like to be that exposed, but she had to do it if she wanted to be part of the business back then, which is kind of sad, you know. Like,
it's so upsetting. Like, there's so many like I'm not going to get into staring up, but like I love online. So many times I've written statuses online or like my opinion on something that I've had to delete because I was like, I don't want to stir anything. I don't want to look, but I don't want to look like that guy who's trying to stir something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Trying to start a fire when the fire has already been and gone. It just means you're trying to alleviate that drama longer. I feel like alleviate. I don't think it's a word for it, but anyway. I feel that when it comes to the women's wrestling, especially in the scene, there's a lot of, especially when I first came into wrestling, it was definitely a boys' club. And I saw a lot of girls who did try to come into wrestling and then left, like immediately left within a few months because they came in here, either they weren't passionate about it, and that's fair because they're usually, most girls who come into wrestling are usually pressured into trying it out by like some booker or some promoter who's desperate to get a women's wrestler trained up so he doesn't have to keep flying girls in. Or it's some wrestler's girlfriend who just wants to try it out and then stuff like that. But then there's always those occasional girls who've come in because they want to do wrestling. And the guys, and this is probably just not just scene, this is like overall, there's a lot of scenes back in the day that where the guys would befriend the girl, try and sleep with the girl, and either they do or they don't, and then the next guy tries, and then the girl's just eventually like, well, I don't want to put up with this, and then leaves. Because at the end of the day, wrestling's like doing what we do and doing it for almost no money besides the money we try and make on shows. You have to have some kind of passion and be happy with what you're doing. If you're coming in here and being sexually like objectified and talked about and pressured and cause rumors, and of course it's your passion will die in a week of that. Or like, I'm surprised they were never called out back in the day, but then again, we never had social media to do it. So like,
I think it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, times have changed and society has changed, whereas like what was socially acceptable like 20 years ago is nowhere like, and you look at even the stuff as far as like we touched about it for the Attitude Era, dude, like what they like, would a Val Venus be able to be on like mainstream television in the United States at 7 p.m. doing, you know, hello ladies and, you know, his whole spiel. Same with like a Joel Gertner from ECW.
I was just about to say Joel Gertner.
You know, I mean, I was a fan of his, man, but like there's no way in the world he can say half the shit that he used to say back then.
I love watching ECW and listening to him talk and just think like, man, like imagine saying that today.
Oh, mate.
And you know what? That's what's funny. Like I didn't think Joel Gertner was funny when I was listening to what he was saying and taking it realistically. I thought Joel was funny because if you listen to what he's saying, it's so outrageous. But
it's so outrageously ridiculous that you have to, like, you could not take him seriously.
No, like that was the problem. That's the problem. But like a lot of people, gimmick and shtick like I know this is probably going to name someone who's cancelled right now, but Joey Ryan's a good example of it. When you really think about his gimmick, like you really think hard, it's really, really problematic. But it was never meant to be taken seriously. It's meant to be funny.
Yeah.
You probably never. Okay, ignoring the fact that he's cancelled, you probably couldn't do that gimmick anymore. Realistically, if you thought about it.
Oh, the dick flipping shit? No way.
Yeah. Nah, it had an expiry date the moment it came on. Like
I completely agree with you, and I think even then, like what we saw come out about him about it, it doesn't sit well with people. You know what I mean? I think if someone was to come out and like mimic his whole act, that would be fucking squashed down pretty quick.
You know how many times, like, because I love using like old school music and just like chill music, or like my first wrestling theme as Bobby Bishop was the Baywatch theme. Like I love using those sort of songs where people are like, "Oh, I remember this song. It's such a banger," like that kind of thing. And I've always been envious of Joey Ryan's Pina Colada song, and now it's like I could never steal that song. I could never steal that song.
I mean, I think maybe in a couple of years, possibly. Like I don't know. It just depends if he'll forget about
it. I mean, no, I don't think it'll happen, and then someone will bring it up, like eventually.
100%. But guys, we're almost at that 90-minute mark. It is that time of the show. It is time for 60 seconds with Piers. Bobby knows all about this game, how we're going to play it. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many questions. I'm going to fire at him rapidly. Bobby, are you ready to get going?
Yes, let's do it. Hang on a second.
All right.
All right, now I am.
Let's start the clock. Which reality show would you rather appear on, Survivor or Amazing Race?
Amazing Race.
If you could only eat one type of meal for a week, what would you choose, Indian or Thai?
Oh, Indian.
Would you rather fight 2 horse-sized ducks or 100 duck-sized horses?
Nah, 2. I can get them to fight each other by accident.
You're the lead singer of a band and get to go on tour for 6 months. Which band do you choose?
Like any band in the world?
Any band in the world. Sorry, I should have worded that differently.
Offspring.
What is the last book you read?
Can it be a comic book?
Could be anything.
Death metal. DC death metal.
Would you rather own your own boat or your own plane?
Plane.
Favorite Australian place to visit?
Morton Island.
What is your dream car?
A good car.
Which Chris is hotter? Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
Hemsworth. It's always Hemsworth. He's funny.
What TV series would you star in if you could choose?
Firefly.
Neighbours or Home and Away?
Home and Away.
Which wrestler would you love to go out drinking with?
Shit. Oh no. I go out with Mr. Kennedy.
If you could sit down with Vince McMahon and ask him 2 questions, what would the questions be?
When did you realize wrestling was a good business to continue with? And secondly, when are you retiring?
One has to go. Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, or Harry Potter?
Harry Potter. Oh, that's rude. Harry Potter.
That is time. That has been 60 seconds with Piers. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on for a part 2. I kind of think that next time we do this, we got to get Lucille in as well. We can make this, have you guys both on at the same time. I reckon that'd be cool.
Yeah, dude. I'm happy to do anything with the podcast. If you just ask me, I'll join in with anything. Yeah, man. Sounds fun. But Bobby, where can everyone find you on social media and buy some merch? I got my phone. So you want to go to wrestling merch and the Cult Classic. Oh no, sorry. My Retro Kid Bobby Bishop shirts are there. I'm about to actually send them my new shirt, which will be out soon. It's pretty fucking dope, actually. And a big call out, if I can, really quickly, to Redneck Kung Fu or shirts. She did the design. She always does like some of the best designs for some of the biggest names, and she did really good in this one. Sensational, man. But, or go to my page. Go to my Patreon. Have they got a Patreon? Or I'll put it up later. I got some really seductive photos, and people want to buy those as well.
There you go. We'll send out the link of Bobby's Patreon so you can go and support. But
Okay,
Bobby,
Patreon.
as always, man, it's been a pleasure. Guys, thank you for everyone who tuned in live. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in post live, whether you listening to us on any podcast platform, YouTube or Twitch. Thank you for supporting. Make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, like, share. Huge shout out to our sponsors and thanks to healthvape.com and sleeves.com. Use promo code MWA pod on both at checkout to get a 10% off your final purchase. But guys, make sure you stay tuned. We've got a lot of great content coming up this week. Make sure you tune in. But guys, until next time, that's the Coughing Cult Classic. And this is Piers Austin. And we'll catch you again very soon. Peace.